welcome to, as I said, an evening version of Behind the Bench, and this is maybe a little bit of a different topic, and of course, a different coach and soccer person that we're speaking to than what we usually do. And I'll say just briefly that I actually met Sasi online, a few months ago, and he had a post on LinkedIn about the podcast and what he does, and I'll let him speak about it in a minute. But that's how we met, and he interviewed me, and I was kind of really I was just impressed and everything by what he was doing there. So I figured, let's have him on the National Soccer Coaches Association of Canada webinar, and maybe he can speak to some of our members and coaches and go from there. So I'll say welcome, Sasi, and maybe if we could just get started. But before we do, I'll just say to everyone who's watching now, please, feel free to use either the chat or the Q&A box if you got any questions. Sasi's got a real diverse background as an athlete, as a coach, as a businessman, as an entrepreneur, etc. So I'm sure there'll be lots of interesting questions, and please feel free. And with that, maybe I'll start. If you'd like to introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about your background, let's say as an athlete, and how did you then transition into the business world, which is the topic for today.
Yeah, first of all, thank you, Richard, for having me. It's a real pleasure to be here, and with all the coaches there from Canada and wherever, North America, where you guys from. I'm always privileged to share my journey purely because when I look at soccer and sports generally, it kind of defined, who I am in life right now. And, having two boys of my own, who are 7 and 10 at the moment, who are aspiring soccer players like myself, I can tell you that the effect of sports the effect sports has on people is quite profound, right? So wherever I go today, even though I've been successful in business and whatever not, I've been a media personality, people always refer to me as the soccer guy, or in this part of the world is the football guy, right? So he's the football guy, he played. So no matter how much I try and shed my skin that I'm actually a former soccer player, it always catches up with me. So I'm super grateful that that also allowed me to speak to a bunch of talented people across the world. So thanks for that, Richard. My background is I am a middle child. As you can see, I'm of Indian origin, but we are third generation. We are born here. I was born and bred here in Singapore. So my parents and grandparents, and pretty much the fabric of this country called Singapore, which is an island nation. If for those of you who don't know, we are a very small nation. We're only 5 million people. East to west is only 42 kilometers, and north to south is 25 kilometers. So you can imagine a little island packed with 5 million people. But we do punch above our weight, and I suppose I was the product of that. I went to school, picked up sports, wasn't academically very driven. I wasn't the best kid in school in terms of academics, but I always found an outlet with sports. Sports was something that was an outlet for me. Started playing all sorts of sports, started playing field hockey, became really good at it. At 15, the coach told me that I was too big. I was growing too tall. I'm 6'4", kind of big for an Asian guy, but 6'4", and hockey wasn't my game. So they said that, you got to get out of hockey, which broke my heart completely. But, like they always say, when a door closes, a window opens. And that's when I got into soccer and started to kind of find my way through soccer and got selected for the schoolboys team. And from there, that's where the national schoolboys team, so the Singapore schoolboy team, where you travel and play and stuff like that. So I suppose my journey started from there. Coincidentally, Richard, it's my birthday today. So I just turned 46 today, literally today.
Happy birthday. Wow. And that's today, March 5th for you, right? Not March 4th.
Yeah, that's right. 5th of March.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Great. Yeah. So that's how you got into football, right? And so yeah. Now I'm just curious, because this is the sports scientist in me. I have to ask this question, but had you not played football at all before, because you said, what was it, age 15 or?
Yeah. So again, like a lot of boys growing up here in Singapore, soccer is the #1 sport, right, for us. Mm-hmm. So we do kick about in the neighborhood. We have our neighborhood teams, and one of the things that the Singapore government did back then, especially when the country was developing, they knew that because of the economic growth, there'll be the part of the strata of the society that will be left behind, which is normal, right? You see that happening all the time. And what do the kids tend to do is that they tend to turn to crime because they can't, economically they are not, well to do. So the government realized that through sports, you can take actually kids out of the street. And so what we have in every neighborhood is what we call a police post, which is a smaller version of a police station. And the police then went out there and started recruiting soccer players to form their own team that represent the local district, that police station. And they had a national competition called the Police Cup. So all these kids, all of us, were then supervised by a police officer who was our coach as well. And then he took us to training, he took us to games and stuff like that. Literally took us away from trouble. I mean, I grew up in quite a rough neighborhood. I'm not comparing Singapore's rough neighborhood to Canada or the US, right? Yeah, but it is still rough. It has its own nuances. But I believe that was the moment that I suppose we were lucky in the sense that, there was some sort of guidance. If you don't turn up for training, the police officer turns up to your doorstep. Like, he knocks on the doors and asks your parents where you are, right? So it was quite amazing for us then. But when you're in it, you don't really understand it. But now that I'm much older, wiser, I realize that there's a lot of things going on behind the background, for the police officer to come. There's a reason behind everything they were doing. And I suppose we're the product of that. So to answer your question in a very long format,
sure, yeah,
is that I actually played football, amateur level or soccer, just playing, nothing that was really organized except for playing in this police cup, which was a kickabout for most kids at my age.
Right on. Yeah. Well, you know what? I'll have to make a note of that we need to look into here in Toronto, getting police to come to the door of the parents when children don't attend training. That's fantastic. I don't know if it's sustainable, but it'd be a great start, because actually attendance is a bit of a problem here sometimes. But anyway, we don't.
Richard, just to segue from that, because I thought I'll talk about one of the projects that I actually did, which stemmed from my own experience. So many years later, when I ran my agency, I was actually in Argentina, in Buenos Aires one day, through the work that I was doing with football. And we were taking a drive down the main area in Buenos Aires, and I saw this. This was a Friday night, or must have been a Friday night, or a weekend night. Let's put it this way. And it was like 15 courts, football courts, hard courts, were all lit up at night. Then I was asking the guy, my partner at the time, what's happening here? So what they realized is that the city council did a study and realized that a lot of the petty crimes actually happened from midnight to 3 a.m. So what they did was they created these soccer programs where they actually kept the kids under surveillance, playing football, playing soccer, and teaching them life skills. And I thought that was so brilliant. And the result of that, they actually saw a drop in petty crimes in Buenos Aires. So I thought that was a really good idea. Actually brought it back to Singapore and implemented with one of my clients, which was Asian Football Confederation. So we created a program called Off the Street, On the Ball. And the title of the thing was called Midnight Football. So basically playing football from midnight to 3 a.m. So that was actually a motivation, inspiration from my own journey. So, it was quite funny that, after many years, it became a full circle.
Yeah, that's great. And it is a good idea. It's interesting. Yeah. So I figured, I'd like you to speak maybe a little bit, because, you were an athlete, and then you transitioned from being an athlete to working in business. And there's many things that you're doing in business. And of course, is the topic of our discussion. So let's maybe talk to us and our listeners a little bit about that transition. How was it for you, and how did you end up kind of doing what you're doing now? Thank you for watching this short preview video from the National Soccer Coaches Association of Canada. To see the full video, plus have access to hundreds of other coaching videos, blogs, webinars, and podcasts, plus free and discounted coach education courses and other soccer merchandise, plus to have exclusive access to register for all future NSCAC conventions, both live and online, click on the link below to become a member of the NSCAC today. Also, please remember to like and subscribe to our YouTube channel, as your continued support allows us to continue to provide coach education and coach development resources to soccer coaches across Canada and worldwide. Thank you again for your continued support, and we look forward to seeing you at future NSCAC events.